This truck is literally everything a truck shouldn't be. Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I'm driving a 1982 Volkswagen Rabbit pickup. Up front is a 1.7 liter inline 4 and down below is a 5-speed manual transmission. And if you'd like to read more of my thoughts, head on over to carmarshal.com/overdrive where I'll be writing a complete review about the Rabbit pickup. But let's get back to that 1.7 liter inline 4. Well, to be honest, it's a pretty weird displacement. 1.7 liter, you just don't hear that often. But this truck was built for fuel economy. This truck was really built as a parts runner, and I'll get into that later. But it was really designed to haul light loads, so it never really needed that big of an engine. The other thing about that 1.7 liter is that it doesn't sound bad and actually gurgles and will sometimes pop for you. I wouldn't expect that out of a 1982 1.7 liter. The 5-speed has a long throw and the clutch is actually pretty stiff for such a small vehicle. And interestingly enough, it is a 5-speed, but if you look at the shift knob, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, E. The E stands for economy. They just labeled 5th gear as an economy gear rather than just 5th gear. I don't know why they did that, but that's how the transmission is set up. Another thing with the transmission is that first gear is super short. The owner, Dylan, which thank you Dylan for letting me do this review, he says he barely even uses first gear. That's how short it is. Getting into his driveway or getting, any slow moving times, he just uses second. Now this truck is also front wheel drive, which I thought was pretty interesting. I've never driven a front wheel drive pickup truck. But then again, when Volkswagen designed this, they really just took the front half of a Rabbit and added on a bed behind it. Well, let's talk about the interior. In front of me, I have my speedometer on the left, but on the right, I have a clock, coolant temp, and fuel. I don't have a tachometer. In the middle, I have these exposed LED lights that apparently will indicate different things, but they're not shielded by any plastic bezel. They're not made to look nice. They're literally just LED lights. Interestingly enough, this clock on the dash is actually a quartz clock, which is the same company that made the clock in the first generation Mazda RX-7s, like the one I have. To the right is a Jensen radio, which looks obviously super dated here in 2018, but it is in fact an FM radio, which is really cool. Below that is the heater and cooling options, which I'm sure worked at some point. Then you get a massive cubby hole in the dash. I miss that about old vehicles, is that they had so much open storage room on the dash. The Chevy S10 that I reviewed had a huge pocket running the whole front of the truck. Then you have the shifter, which is obviously on the floor. And something interesting I saw is that the way that the seatbelts release, it almost feels like you're reaching down for an ejector seat. They're kind of angled for your thumb, and they're these big orange buttons. And so when you want to get out, just press it and you're out. It's a really cool design. I think that's really simple, but I think it's really cool. Then you have a glove box off to the right. Now, something interesting specifically to this Volkswagen Rabbit pickup, it has the early Westie package on it, which means you get bed rails and wood grain. That's it. That's all you got in that package. You got 2 seats, you got roll down windows, and that is it. This is a very basic interior. And that's what a pickup truck should be. Pickup trucks back in the day, before Chevy released their sunroof, leather, High King Ranch, Praise Jesus package, trucks were basic. Trucks didn't need leather seats. Trucks didn't need power windows. They needed to be able to do a job, and that's what this thing does. This truck is literally everything a truck shouldn't be. It's a 4-cylinder, it's front wheel drive, it's not body on frame, it's unibody. And so yeah, on paper this seems like a truck that's built completely wrong. But this engine gets amazing miles per gallon. somewhere in the mid to high 30s. Sometimes, if you're really off it, you're keeping it in E, you'll hit 40 miles to the gallon. No problem. So for me, there's two sort of downsides of the Rabbit pickup truck. First and foremost being parts. I actually met Dylan and his father at a car show where they were displaying this Rabbit pickup truck, and it immediately drew my attention. I'd never seen something like it, so of course I had to go up and talk to him. And through talking, I learned that parts are not easy to come by. Dylan said that he's had to order a handful of parts from Germany. With my RX-7, which is around the same year as this, I don't think I've ever ordered parts straight from Japan. I don't think I've ever had to. There's always been at least some sort of aftermarket support for my car. So yes, while this does share a complete front end with the Rabbit, how often do you see 1980s Rabbits around? Not that often. Now, the other thing is some people might say, oh, but my Ford F-10000 can pull down a house, and it can also pull a tractor trailer at the same time. Yes, I'm sure your Ford whatever can pull a lot more than this. I'm sure that your Chevy can fit more in the bed. But modern day pickup trucks cannot touch the mile per gallon of this thing. They can't even grasp it in their minds. And to anyone doubting this truck's ability, the owner Dylan dailies this and uses it for his business. What's his business, you might ask? Landscaping. He said he's fit 3 pushing lawnmowers in the back without an issue. He once towed 600 pounds worth of stones in the bed. Again, it brought the suspension down, sure, but it did it. And it did it while getting good gas mileage. Not only that, how often do you see these things? These things are so unique. I hate to sound like an old folk, but they just don't build them like they used to. Now, before I drove the Rabbit pickup, I was struggling to figure out what to name this video. Is this a Rabbit pickup truck or is this a Caddy? Now, a lot of people will call this a Volkswagen Caddy. And while I don't disagree, that was the European market vehicle. As it was sold here on the brochure, you got it as a Rabbit pickup truck. Speaking of which, this exact truck was actually built in Pennsylvania. This wasn't actually built in Germany, which I found interesting. And so, like I mentioned earlier, the original use for this truck, and actually what this truck was, this specific truck that I'm driving right now, what this truck was used for was for running parts. Auto body shops, tool shops, any sort of shop that carried goods that needed to move them from point A to point B. This was a very simple and very practical solution to their issues. It got great gas mileage. It has the huge open bed. You can throw whatever you want back there. Space isn't an issue. Fuel keeps costs down. And so no, it's not 4-wheel drive and it can't drive up the side of a mountain. But no one ever needed these things to. There were other pickup trucks that did that just as well. There were other pickup trucks that filled that gap. And I have to say, this thing is fun to drive. This thing, it's like that little kid in your neighborhood that always tries to fight and run with the bigger kids in the neighborhood. You know, like when you guys were 13, we had that 6 or 7-year-old neighbor who would always ride bikes with you and try to fight, you know, higher than his weight class. No, it's not beating the big dogs, but it just likes running with them. It's this fun little pickup truck. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned something about the 1982 Volkswagen Rabbit pickup truck, or Caddy to some. If you want to read more of my thoughts, head on over to carmarshall.com/overdrive. But again, hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys. There goes a sight from my soul.